A sick teenager who was placed in permanent custody of the state of Massachusetts will be transferred back to her home state of Connecticut. The transfer, another move infuriating the child's parents. 15-year-old Justina Pelletier has been treated for mitochondrial disease, a disorder that affects cellular energy production, but Boston Children's Hospital later diagnosed her problems as psychiatric. That's when the controversy began. Her parents say her illness is physical, but a court ordered her put into the custody of the Department of Children and Families, alleging her parents had been verbally abusive. Jessica's parents say the most recent move is not a step toward regaining custody of their child. They called the latest action barbaric. Joining us now in studio to talk about this issue is our legal expert, Michelle Suskauer. Thanks for being here.
I'm glad to be here. This is a really upsetting case and infuriating, especially as a parent. But basically what happened is that this girl was being treated at Tufts Hospital in Boston. Her family lives in Connecticut. She was treated for this special mitochondrial disease, very rare, and she was then referred by her doctor to go to a different hospital for a second opinion. But because there was a snowstorm, she was transported via ambulance, went in through the emergency room, and so the doctor she was supposed to see never got to see her, but a resident basically made a 25-minute assessment or referred her to a psychiatrist, where they basically made a completely different diagnosis, saying, just like you said, that this is psychological instead of physical. And that's really how it all started.
And now it's become political. Joining us via telephone, it's our friend Howie Carr, WRKO radio talk show host and, of course, columnist for the Boston Herald. Howie, this situation, what has it done to Boston and its environs in terms of this action taken by a resident, and if I'm not mistaken, but just to correct the counsel, I believe a psychologist rather than a psychiatrist, based on a 25-minute interview?
Correct, a psychologist from Romania originally, and they decided to put this poor girl, Justina, who's never had any behavioral problems. She was a figure skater back home in Hartford. They decided to put her in a locked psychiatric children's ward in Children's Hospital for 13 months. And they wouldn't let the parents visit for Christmas, for Easter, for her birthday. They didn't even, a number of people sent presents to her, and the nurse put the presents in a closet, wouldn't let the girl see them. The poor Justina now has chipped teeth, apparently, from forced feeding at Children's Hospital, and her health has deteriorated more than somewhat, and they went before they appointed a guardian for the girl, the court appointed guardian, a guardian ad litem, and Children's was even stonewalling the guardian ad litem, making her wait for an hour and a half to see her charge. And it's just outrageous what's been going on. And there've been attempts in the legislature to pass resolutions saying we support Justina in her attempt to get back, et cetera, et cetera. Went to a judge. Everybody assumed that the judge, a juvenile court, family court judge, was going to kick it back to Connecticut and try to extricate Massachusetts from this terrible bind. I mean, they're liable for all kinds of damages to this girl and her family. But the judge gave over the custody to the Department of Children and Families, which you may or may not know has been involved in a series of scandals. They just had to fire the head of the DCF last week. They've lost kids. Kids have been murdered in their custody. It's just, you don't want any parent to ever lose custody of the kid, but especially to this inept agency in Massachusetts. And now they're moving the kids back to Connecticut, but it's Thompson, Connecticut, which is right at the at the other end of the state, and it's as far away from where the Pelletier family lives as Boston,
I mean,
as Boston is.
and certainly she is a casualty of this broken system. There's no question, and it continues. It continues because again, another psychiatric facility, not even close to where her family lives in Connecticut, right?
Right.
So,
right, and if you look it up, it's called something like the Wayne Center for Excellence, and they say right on their website this is for children with major behavioral problems, and that's never been the case with
Right.
Justina. Nobody's ever said she had a behavioral issue. And oh, by the way, they say it's psychiatric. Well, the last time the Pelletiers visited her, she had a tube in her stomach. So if it's a psychological malady, why does she need a tube in her stomach? It's just, this is the most outrageous thing that's gone on here in a long time, and it's really it's really disconcerting to many of us who've had our children at Children's Hospital. I mean, Children's Hospital has saved my daughter's life.
well, and this is the thing, Howie, you think Children's Hospital, and we hear about its excellence, they're in the business of saving lives. It looks like they've ruined this girl's life, torn apart the family dynamic. Michelle, to the point that we understand,
Right.
her family was threatened, saying, don't you dare try to take legal action. Don't you dare try to go public on this.
That's right.
They finally went public, so the question becomes, in the midst of these horrors, what can the family do legally, first of all, to get their daughter back, and then to exact a price, although the damage, it's very difficult to quantify, what the state of Massachusetts, the hospital, this resident, the psychologist, the entire bureaucracy has done to this girl and done to this family.
The list of people who are negligent in this situation is unbelievable, and there is a laundry list. And so basically, the family sort of being threatened in a way. Don't take legal action because we have your daughter, so don't talk. But they finally did. Now, I'm sure that they want to finally be reunited with their child, and hopefully they will be. Hopefully they can extricate her from this next place where she is, and then they can proceed. Obviously, there's some statute of limitations. They're still within statute of limitations in order to proceed with legal action against the state of Massachusetts, potentially the state of Connecticut as well, and a large variety of physicians who've come into contact with them.
Howie, the political fallout there, obviously you talked about what happened to the agency, getting rid of the head of the agency. Now I'm just wondering, with the physical move to Connecticut, do you have a situation where we can expect the governor of Connecticut legally, does the governor of Connecticut, and this may be for Michelle more, but do you expect something politically to happen in Connecticut, Howie, and then we'll go for the legal angle with Michelle?
JD, I mean, I've been asking this question all along, and we've had Lou Pelletier, the father, on several times, and I've asked him, why isn't the state of Connecticut, the political system, more interested in this case? I mean, Governor Malloy has said absolutely nothing about this, and there have been more legislators from Massachusetts that have gone on record about the terrible situation that Justina finds herself in than Connecticut legislators. And I can't believe that they would just sort of walk away from one of their constituents like this. But they have. They don't seem to have any interest, and I can't figure it out.
Well, what about whether the politicians get involved in Connecticut or not? When she's physically transferred there, can her parents, as Connecticut residents, Michelle, do they have a legal leg to stand on saying, that happened in Massachusetts against our will. It's a clear and demonstrable harm to our family. Give us our daughter back.
Absolutely. Because now they're on their home state, they're on their home turf, and they're going to be able to say, look, this is where we live. She's now here, and let's bring her back.
Well, Howie, we know you'll continue to monitor that story in Boston. Michelle, we very much appreciate your perspective.
By the way, JD, they have no problem with her going back into some kind of halfway house. I mean, she's in very poor health right now, but there's two apparently very excellent facilities that she could be in that are not for kids with behavioral problems, and they're only about 10 minutes from Hartford. There's one in New Britain, as a matter of fact. easy driving distance from Hartford, and they just want her. That's where she belongs. If she's going to be in a halfway house, put her in one near Hartford, and one that's not involving these kids that have these terrible behavioral problems.
This is someone who is going to need assistance, probably at least psychologically, may not also physically, for the rest of her life.
Well, it just doesn't seem like the authorities here are taking her interests in mind. Maybe they're trying to, but the end result certainly doesn't appear that way.
No, it really doesn't.
This is a classic example of government run amok and so-called do-gooders ending up doing evil, doing harm to a very vulnerable person. Michelle, we thank you, and we thank Howie for his input online, and we're going to put it up to you. Is this a case of government run amok? We'd love to hear from you. Why don't you tweet us your comments, add Newsmax TV, #America's Forum. We are coming right back. Stay with us.